Good morning. It's Thursday. I have a question for you. How do you earn money? It's by earning people's trust in you and your product or your service or your skill, right? And how do you earn trust? Well, that's not as straightforward. In all our lives endeavors, we always seek out people we can trust. When we're hiring a babysitter, when we're choosing a political leader, when we're picking a mechanic, when we're assessing potential romantic partners, even when we are buying tomatoes in the market, our minds will attempt a quick assessment of the trustworthiness of the individual before we engage with them on any level. Now, as humans, we always want to minimize risk in our lives, and so we gravitate towards the people who make us feel safe, those who seem trustworthy. Now, there are so many things that our brains look for in determining the trustworthiness of another human being. How they look, what clothes or car they have, how they sound, what other people say about them, and most importantly, our own past experiences with the person in question. Over the years, our minds use this information to form their own little formula, which we employ in performing these on-the-spot assessments of people's trustworthiness. Obviously, a person's appearance goes a long way to help us determine their trustworthiness. Imagine you are entering the consulting room at a hospital. You go in and there's a woman in a white lab coat sitting at the desk with her glasses on her nose, her stethoscope around her neck, writing out prescriptions. Now, if this woman then asks you, what is wrong? Would you doubt for a moment that she's the doctor? And when she gives you a prescription, will you question her credentials before you go and buy and swallow the pills? Especially if she sounds confident too. Confidence is contagious. And a person who sounds like they know what they're talking about puts us at ease and makes us trust them. How else would Foster Ataminsa have almost convinced the entire nation, including some pretty smart Pentecostal church leaders, that he was a Nobel Prize-winning NASA physicist? How else would Dr. Fojo have convinced all manner of people, from scholars to parliamentarians to diplomats to celebrities, that he represented the UN and was awarding them in the name of Kofi Annan? The one factor in the trust formula that cannot easily be faked is track record. This is the actual answer to the question, how is trust earned? It is earned by doing exactly what you say you will do all the time, even when nobody is watching. It is by proving to people that they can rely on you to come through for them when needed. It's by under-promising and over-delivering in every human interaction with such consistency that your word can be taken for granted. Now, don't be mistaken. Having a good track record does not mean you have never made mistakes or will never make a mistake. It just means that you are honest about everything you do, especially your mistakes. There aren't many people who are able to meet this standard, but for those who do, no door is ever closed to them. In Britain and many other developed countries, applying for a bank loan is a very quick and simple exercise. You can do it from the comfort of your sofa at home without setting foot in a bank. All you need is your phone. You go online, you fill a form. The form is usually 1 page long, and it asks simple questions about who you are, what you do, where you do it, and how long you have been doing it for. The form is designed to help the bank to answer 2 questions about you. 1, are you who you say you are? And 2, can you pay back this loan? The system then checks your answers, which is like how you check the appearance of somebody and how the person sounds. They check those answers against your credit report, which is like how you would check somebody's track record of how you have handled debts in the past. Okay? Then it will give you a credit score, which is then used to form an instant decision right there as you sit on your sofa as to whether they will lend you the money or not. My dear friend, this morning I want you to ask yourself one question. How would you perform in a trust credit score? How would you fare against the trust formula? Would your appearance, your voice, people's experiences of you, would they all combine to give someone a sense of safety when dealing with you? Are you trustworthy? Now, if you're not, don't despair. Trust is earned just like money, and it's never too late to start building a good reputation. So start with the small things, and then the big ones will be added onto you. Nobody will trust you with the whole project if they can't even trust you to get to work on time. If you can't manage your own household, who will trust you to manage a nation? You can't lie about how you feel all the time and then expect your partner to trust you with their feelings, their heart. Trust is earned, but it's never too late. So start now and never stop. My name is Kojo Yankson, and I can't trust those who lie to me. So I won't lie to those who trust me. Good morning, Ghana.
Time now for the news. Now, Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia says, contrary to suggestions that the New Patriotic Party has labeled the National Democratic Congress government as incompetent previously, it is the NDC's record in government that has given it that tag. He says the NDC mismanaged the country's economy to the point that it could not pay several debts, resulting in a power crisis that persisted for 5 years and the withdrawal of allowances for teachers, nurses and Arabic teachers. Dr. Bawumia made the statement at a deba held at Jirapa in his honor. Here's Rafiq Salam's report.
The New Patriotic Party MPP is back to one of its ancestral homes, Jiruba constituency, a constituency their forebears, led by Simon D. Dondombo, used to win, losing only a scintilla of sweat. Since the return of multi-party democracy in 1992, the MPP is yet to find favor with the electorates to restore the heritage. The party has tried several candidates over the years, but it appears they all ran only for the records. Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Zongo Development Fund, Salvo Aisa Dagati, begged for a change in the voting pattern of the people. She said if her father, Salvo Dagati, were to be alive, he would have been a member of the MPP based on the principle and development that the party has brought to the constituency. Salvo Dagati was a British-trained Ghanaian police officer and presidential bodyguard who shielded Dr. Kwame Nkrumah with his body on the 5th attempt to assassinate him.
My father, the late Salvo Dagati, was alive today, he would have been following Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo because of his principles, because of his loyalty to the people of Ghana, because of fairness, because he wants equality. And that is what our fathers that we have mentioned all here stood for. If there's any doubt in your head, our brother Edward Salia did what he did. And today, yes, he left a mark. Who else can you say left a mark? We can't go to any community and say this is what NDC has left for us.
Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia stated that it is not the MPP that has adjudged the NDC as incompetent government, but rather it is their record in government that has given them out.
So when we say the NDC was not competent in managing the economy, it is not we who are saying it. It is their record which is saying they could not pay teacher training allowance, so they abolished it. That's a result of mismanagement. They abolished nursing training allowance. They made sure that our students at tertiary institutions who were not paying utility bills, suddenly students were being asked to pay utility bills.
He said the time is ripe for the people of the Upper West region, especially Jiruba, to come home to restore the heritage of the party.
I am very, very clear in my mind when I look at the list of projects that have been accomplished within the Jirapa constituency and what is ongoing at the moment. It is clear that the MPP has done more in 3.5 years than the NDC did in 8 years of government in Jirapa here.
At least the party has found some hope in Paul Derugoba, who once upon a time won the Jiruba seat as an independent candidate after his severe ties with the NDC upon losing the party's parliamentary primary. Former President John Dramani Mahama and Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia for the past week has been crisscrossing the Upper West region trying to woo voters to their side. The question is, do enough believe them? Reporting for the news, Rafiq Salam, Jiruba.
For the monumental developmental works that have gone on in
The people voted for you to empower them, not to intimidate them. Those are the words of the running mates of former President Mahama, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, to government. Professor Opoku-Agyeman also questioned if the country is practicing democracy, judging from what she says has become the frequent attacks on free speech. She argues that stifling free speech could be a recipe for disaster, since the electorate could be forced to express themselves through violent means. She made these comments during a working visit to the Media Foundation for West Africa on Wednesday.
Because it's something we should have taken for granted by now. So again, I asked myself, so what is it that is impeding this? Are we really practicing democracy, or is this something else? You know, so sometimes we need to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves some questions, because we need to build strong institutions, independent institutions. They will not be built with fear and harassment and all kinds of impediments that are not helpful. You see, freedom of expression is so important. And it's important because what are you expressing? So it starts in the mind. And if you stifle the expression, it stays in the mind. And thoughts they will come out in other ways. Okay, and they will come out mostly in ways that are not comprehensible, because they have not come out through dialogue. And that is why it's so dangerous to silence people. And I think that we all need to understand, by intimidating and so on, you are rather creating a very, very unsafe society. The person invests his power in you by voting. That is all. Then what do? You return that power by addressing the person's needs. You don't return that power by being arrogant. You don't return that power by believing you are better than other people, because those people put you there. And you should never forget that in any moment in your life, or that they have invested their power in you and they expect better returns. They don't expect that you stifle their speech because they voted for you. They don't expect that you take decisions without their inputs. And they don't expect that you'll be violent or you'll intimidate them. I don't think that is what the users of power should be, especially when that power has been invested in you. And I think that part also needs to form part of our dialogue, so that all this arrogance and so on will go down. If you don't want to serve, don't come. I don't think there's any compulsion on anybody to go and ask for a vote. This is not to say that, excuse me, we should just shoot our mouth and say anything we like.
Now, Transport Minister Kweku Fore-Siama has revealed commercial motorbike operations could soon be legalized should ongoing stakeholder consultations approve such a move. NDC flag bearer John Mahama has promised the business, which is currently outlawed, even though not strictly enforced, would be legalized. Speaking to journalists after appearing before Parliament's Accounts Committee sitting, at which the Okada issue was raised, Mr. Siama said the ongoing consultation is what will determine whether the law should change. He insists, though, the move has nothing to do with the promise by the NDC.
If the government make its position clear on it, the government we are now doing stakeholder consultation on the matter, and whatever position will come out clear, we make it public to the people of this country to know. But as of today, the position of Okada is in what is stated in 2180.
One of the possible outcomes could be that after the consultation, if the people push for it, this government will buy into the idea.
Possibilities are not what the law says. The possibility is what the people say. So
are you going to review the law?
I am saying that we are doing stakeholder consultation on the matter, and when we are done, we will make it public for everybody to know.
How long should we expect this stakeholder consultation to take?
You see, in coming up with the law, it's not about speed, it's about accuracy.
Okay. Could one of those possible outcomes be the position that John Mahama has taken at the moment, and he wants to see it legalized?
You see, you are asking me the position. I'm not being hoovering about what President Mahama promises on his campaign tours. What I'm saying is the state of Okada and what this present government is doing now.
You're also watching the AM News. We take you now to the Ashanti region. There are 8 recorded polio cases in 6 districts, more than any region in Ghana since the beginning of this year. The cases, all vaccine-derived polio virus type 2, represent about 80% of 12 cases recorded nationwide. Though health authorities will not give details of affected districts, They say the situation calls for public support as it rolls out a 3-day immunization exercise targeted about 1.2 million children under 5 years. Ohim Interior has more in the following report.
Authorities say affected districts are noted for low immunization and insanitary conditions. Deputy Regional Health Director in charge of public health, Dr. Yao Ofori-Yeboah, asked parents to avail children under 5 years for the administration of safe vaccine in all 43 districts of the Ashanti region.
It is important to stress at this point that polio has no cure. It can only be prevented through immunization, good hygiene, and sanitation practices. However, polio vaccine, which is known to prevent the disease, is given at birth or soon after birth, and subsequently given at 6 weeks, 10 weeks, and 14 weeks. In spite of all these efforts, the Ashanti region recently recorded in 6 districts what we call vaccine-derived polio virus type 2. And in accordance with established protocol, the region, together with other regions in the country, will be embarking on massive polio immunization exercise. The focus will be for children under the age of 5 years. In the Ashanti region, we'll be targeting 1,184,860 children aged below 5 years. The government of Ghana, through Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service, together with our partners, have mobilized 2,714 teams to support the program in the Ashanti region.
Dr. Ofori-Yeboah admits the advent of COVID-19, which has affected routine health services in the region, could be partly blamed for the situation.
In general terms, because of COVID-19, all services, indeed all the services that we provide to the public, in one way or the other, have suffered. And it is due to so many things. And certainly one of them has to do with the fact that when people had the perception that when they go to hospitals or any of health facilities, they are at higher risk of contracting COVID-19. And therefore, a lot of people on their own volition decided not to even seek care, as they used to do. But we will not. I wouldn't like to link this one because the low immunization coverage is over a period that can have this sort of effect that we are talking about. But certainly, the outbreak of COVID-19 has had a lot of negative, effects on routine service delivery.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says polio has been detected in some parts of the Greater Accra and Eastern regions. Fred Osei-Sapong is immunization officer.
We've recorded a case in Northern region, Northeast, Savannah, Oti, Bono East, Bono, Ahafo, Western region, Ashanti region. And then in Greater Accra and Eastern region, we found the virus in an environmental sewage. What we are also doing is, aside the fact that the virus can infect an individual and get that individual paralyzed, the virus is usually in the environment. So in order for us to satisfy ourselves that we don't have the virus with us, we do pick samples from environmental sewage, send to the lab, and then we test. We did that, and then we realized that in Eastern region and Greater Accra, they have the virus within the environment. But we are happy to say that no child in these two regions have had the disease.
For Joy News, Ohim Interior reporting.
And that's it for the AM News. We've got plenty more stories on myjoyonline.com. But you know what we do after the news? We bring you the newspaper review, some of the stories that you'll be hearing There's a follow-up to that story we shared this week about the 12-year-old boy in Cape Coast who, in the process of escaping further punishment from his father, jumped from a story building to his death. Well, the stepmother and the father have appeared in court, and they are now in police custody. The papers are sharing details of that, we'll tell you. And then Kennedy Japan is in the news. Well, today he's been apologizing. There's a session in one of the papers where he's issued an apology to the courts. Why? Well, he claims that a judgment was given in the case without his knowledge. He got really upset and said some very uncomfortable words to the judge in the process. The judge issued a warrant, has summoned him to appear on Monday, next week, Monday, 14th of September. But even ahead of that, he has been apologizing. We'll tell you what he's been saying. There are plenty other stories in the newspapers that we will explore with Isaac J. Hyde, the NUC's president, and Joseph Akable. That's shortly after this. Hello there again. Welcome to the review segment of our show. I've seen a very nice photograph of Isaac J. Hyde, who's the NUC's president, who's our reviewer this week. He's been joining us on the review. This one doesn't look like it. Shall we see the picture I saw?
Mama, I beg you.
But how are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Oh, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Akable. What up? What up? What up? What up?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too. I will only declare on the last day that I've been reviewing the papers with my son.
Okay. It's good to join you, Mommy.
Jay Hyde, you'll be doing the Ghanaian Times and the Statesman. Joseph, what are you doing?
I'll be doing the Daily Guide, the Daily Dispatch, and the Business Finder.
Okay, and I'll stick with the Daily Graphic and the Daily Heritage. So I think, Joseph, you should start today.
Yes, and so we're starting from the front page of the Daily Guide. It says, massive demo hits Mahama at Achim. And trust me, I'm truthful, Akufo-Addo says. He has his photograph. And Bono East getting first waste plant also on the front page. There are a number of other stories on the front page. Here, Obinim docket merged. There's also, you can copy ideas, not our work, is coming from Dr. Baumia. And Ghanaian pastor kills wife in US. There's a photograph of the couple. That's a story that I'll tell you about later on.
Yeah.
At the back page has extend nominations deadline as COSUA petitions AU. And Nordjylland role excites Michael Essien, and also on the back page of the Daily Guide. I'll go to the Daily Dispatch now. The front page says, why I want to be president again is coming from Mr. John Dramani Mahama. And Ahoy on Rawlings' leadership style and vision. And we will finish paying refunds by end of September, president to DKM customers. And Akufo-Addo cuts sword for a solid waste treatment plant in Bono East region, also on the front page of the Daily Dispatch. The back page has the president's story, as well as you are driving away swing voters, benefiting to Mahama and Akufo-Addo. And the last one for me will be that of the Business Finder. It says 15 million compost plants for Techiman. President Katsol says it will provide jobs for youth. And I mean, it has some details of season 2 of an entrepreneurship challenge. You can find details on the front page and in the inside pages as well. So that is it for the Dispatch, Business Finder, and Daily Guide.
All right, Jay, over to you. Next.
Yeah, Mama V, I'm starting with the Daily Statesman, and it reads that 1D1F, Akufo-Addo inspects 34 million starch processing factory at Amantin. Then it also reads that the real Sakawa happened under you. Angry Achim chiefs and citizens descend on Mahama for insulting them. It also captures the 15 million euro integrated recycling and compost plant takes off. And this was commissioned by President Akufo-Addo. England draw, the back page also talks about England's game, where it's an England draw Denmark game. Ronaldo passes 100 goals for Portugal. And I move on to the Ghanaian Times. It says that Bono East gets 50 million euro waste treatment plants. Chiefs, people of 3 Achim states demo against former President Mahama. Man jailed 10 years for robbery. Ghana population housing census now takes place next year. On the back page, it reads that Trade Minister inspects work on 4 million maize processing factory in Accra Central. And it says that Minister distributes relief items to flood victims. In the middle spread, it brings in that Kita Port Project infrastructure development begins next year, says Transport Minister. These are the headlines.
Okay. All right, let me continue with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Front page, President cuts sought for recycling plants at Fiaso. Also, cabin examination malpractice, rogue websites, HOTS. And WAEC is putting the spotlight on a number of websites that it says always comes up when they announce that examinations would happen. So just when they did the announcement of the BEC starting next week, they've seen quite a number of websites come up with names such as WAEC Exams Room, WAEC Seekers Exams Leaks, WAEC Pass Examination, WASI Results Upgrade, WAEC for 2020, such names linked to them. And essentially, there are students following because they want APO. And about 60,000 students, they say, who follow some of these websites. So there's more. We will probably be telling you some more after we run through the headlines. So let's go to the center spread of the Daily Graphic newspaper. In the center spread today, citizens demand more investment in social interventions, according to a study which has revealed a high demand for more investment in social protection intervention in the country. Respondents also raised concerns over inadequate public knowledge of available social protection interventions, their financing and delivery, and transparency of programs and services. Registrar General deploys beneficial ownership register October 1, also in the center spread of the paper on the back page. The Ministry of Health has received some 100,000 medical nose masks worth $150,000 from an international finance technology service company, OPE, and the details is on the back page. GridCo working to solve or to resolve power outages. It says the Ghana Grid Company Limited, main electricity transmission company in the country, has given an assurance that it is taking immediate steps to resolve the challenges its plants are facing, which have resulted in power outages in recent times. It said its plants in the western and eastern regions had suffered problems with some key transmission lines, and that it was working to provide solutions to address the setbacks. It just took my mind back to when the NDC launched its manifesto and said that places didn't have electricity was linked to perhaps because of what they were doing, and somebody didn't want people to either watch or listen or follow what was going on. Now, the Daily Heritage is my second paper and the last one. Front page of the Daily Heritage, Achim Sakawa saga, Mahama owes no apology. According to a spokesperson, James Ajeni Boateng, Ofanko murder case, killer in quotes, landlord for Ankafo today. Construction of €15 million waste treatment plants begins in Bono East. UK-based Ghanaian pastor arrested for killing wife. Joseph has promised us details of the story. So I guess let's just get the details of some of the stories. Jay, what would you want to highlight on?
Yeah, Mama V, I'm interested in the Daily Graphic story about the springing up of websites going into the BEC examinations. We realized that quite recently we were very much against the call for receipt of WASI papers because of some leakages. And that was because we felt that WAEC as an institution must take responsibility. Almost all the time, it's as though students are made to pay the price for failures of some of these institutions and their responsibilities. And so it's good that this is coming before the paper starts, and would call on authorities to clamp down on some of these things, because eventually, if WAEC feels on the responsibility to protect their job in terms of, setting the questions, transportation, security, supervision, and everything, the students only go and sit there and write. They have no hand as to how papers leaks. And so receipts and, rewriting the exams for us, a somewhat a lazy approach to dealing with some of these institutional failures. And so we are glad that this is coming up now. We would want the authorities to calm them down, because the era where only racism becomes the solution to these problems, I don't think should be countenanced.
So, but I by exposing these websites and saying that this is the greatest threat to the credibility of the certificates that they issue, this has nothing to do with the student. Has it got a link? Because if a website comes and they've got this name and they say, oh, we can help you, naturally people will follow.
Yes, and you can't obviously blame them. Even at the tertiary level, I recall there was a time I used to do a lot of research online, and there was one time I chanced on, it's a foreign university, I chanced on their questions and I studied them. When I went to the exam hall, they were the same questions that had been set. And so I presuppose that my lecturer had actually taken a question from that university's website. But the point I'm making is that the website, they are doing their job. If it's contrary to law, it's fine. But if you're not pointing a specific law, then the question now comes that your concern should be how the website gets access to questions that you have set. Because the challenge has always been that students are punished when obviously they are just beneficiaries of something that's gone wrong. And so I am there, someone comes, we are preparing for an exam. Someone says, okay, I think these questions are coming. I'm not holding brief for those who actually go and give money to people to induce them to actually give their question. Not those ones. I'm talking about people who say that, Charlie, I think this question is coming. Let's discuss it and let's see whether it's going to come. And so they are still focusing on the wrong, and the actual problem is internal. And last time when this issue happened, we had Dr. Yawose Edichum even propose that they can even vary the question and mix it up. And so you don't necessarily have to have the same question for this student such as this. But then again, because of the marking constraints, because they want it to be one question so that you know that number one is A, number two is B, then you mark all at the same time. And so that is the challenge that they are facing. But the real solution is not what they are looking towards if they intend to deal with the platforms that are spreading it.
So I guess that's one aspect. If what they do constitutes a crime, then the law would take its course. But it also comes with issues of integrity even within WAEC itself. So I agree with you. You can't push all the blame to some people who want to make money and have websites that attract students because they know students will be interested in questions. And if they have anything close to it, definitely people will follow. But how about internally? Who handles the questions? Who is sending the questions out? And it's a whole chain. Recently, I've been following this issue as well. Sometimes I hear it's from the photocopier, from the photocopy station. Sometimes it's from TAs, but I don't know if WAEC will have TAs or...
In fact, the press conference they addressed, Latif's report yesterday on the midday news, it actually made a point that they even found that some of their invigilators went into the exam hall with the answers and handed the answers to the students. So this even goes beyond, even aside from giving the questions out, because I do not set WAEC questions. But if I'm going to take an exam today and a colleague comes and says that, look, I have some questions I think you should look at, I'm going to look at those questions. I'm preparing for an exam. I'm trying every question I can try just to be well prepared.
Yeah. I guess we're also interested in how they deal with these people as well. And it shouldn't be kept from us, because that will also send a strong signal to others within their regulation, within, the people that they themselves supervise.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jay?
Exactly. So you realize that over the years, the only thing you don't see WAEC instituting internal measures. Never at any point in time are we saying that people have been paraded before the media, or let's say any press conference or any form of communication that these are persons who have been caught in the act of examination leakages, because examination leakage can only come from WAEC. WAEC is an independent body. It controls from A to Z the whole process of the WASI exams. The only thing the student does is to be told that this is the day that you are writing your paper, this is your center, go there and write. And so for us, reset, rewrite is a lazy approach to dealing with some of these issues. I think that for WAEC to, win back some of us, good image, it should be able to hold people accountable. And then I think that's why I agree with Akable. We need to go a step further. I believe that these websites will come, but if as an independent body it compromises the integrity of your organization, because there is a need to go a step further to make sure that you bring in the police. It's a matter of law. And so we bring in the police to deal with them.
Yeah. Well said. Okay, Joseph, tell us about this issue that's been, it's like everywhere now. I saw it yesterday, read it, and I thought, something isn't right.
They said it was actually captured on CCTV footage. It's a Ghanaian-born pastor, Sylvester Ofori, has been arrested by the Orlando police in the U.S. state of Florida on suspicion of killing his wife, Barbara Ofori, on Tuesday morning. The victim, 27, an employee of Navy Federal Credit Union, was shot and killed at the Gardens Park Boulevard, west of the John Young Parkway and north of the Mall of Millenia, as she arrived for work that morning. It's not clear what might have triggered the Carlos incident, which has since set major American media outlets in motion. It says he was apprehended, that is the suspect, and taken into custody. According to him, the bloody incident was captured on a surveillance video, and added that Ofori took off from the scene. Immediately he shot the wife. There's a quote here that says, "You can tell that is from the video that she was trying to get inside. Unfortunately, he shoots her," he said. Police chief narrated and continued that the victim appeared surprised by what was happening. An eyewitness is quoted as saying that, "I'm still shaking up right now." And so she's very troubled. The guy was walking behind her, she continues. "I don't know if she knew he was there or not. The next thing I knew was he raised his hand with a gun in it and he shot her." The witness recounted. So very...
And we're now told that the gunshot was about 7 times.
Wow.
That's the other reports that you would find, for instance, on myjawline.com. But I was also reading related stories, and there was another site that was talking about the fact that there were issues of abuse in the home, and the lady's family had asked that she leaves. So she wasn't exactly living with the husband, the pastor, but that's just what's been reported on the other side. There was another one that I also read, which said that her brothers had taken her to the house to go and collect some of her items, and allegedly either abused the man or there was some kind of confrontation. So this was the aftermath of what had happened in their home earlier when she had gone there to collect her items. Whatever, I mean, the stories are a lot. It's just scattered all around.
Very sad,
I guess what the issue is the fact that a husband has killed the wife. And we're not clear. There's also another website that was also reporting of things that the man had posted on social media. And essentially, if you put all the pieces together, it's got issues of either trust or something like that. So here's a pastor posting almost every day something about don't believe somebody who is smiling nicely at you, or tiger, or issues like that. So it's all around, but it's really, really sad that this is a person that we're told very close to the entrance of her office, and she was shot by no other person than a husband 7 times. She died as they rushed her to the hospital. Jay, I don't know if you've also heard anything related to this story.
Yeah, similarly, I just like Akable said, I read the story. I mean, the unfortunate bit is the fact that this is a pastor. There are images of himself and the lady at church, and I mean, sharing some good time and all. Very unfortunate. There's also this piece going around where he shared some, statements on his Facebook page, including one that I remember, which says that a lion's tongue can lick paint off a wall, and that is the second most potent after that of a woman. I mean, so you could tell that some of these things were coming. I mean, more often than not, I think that it also talks about mental health. Sometimes we need to be closer to people we suspect of having sometimes depression and other things, because if people could read between the lines, there were some, signs which showed that this gentleman was having some problems. Perhaps if people close to him could have gotten closer to him, we could have stemmed something like this. Very unfortunate.
And we've just put the pictures, a picture at least, of the pastor and now the late's wife was shot, as we're told, by this gentleman. We'll see how this case goes, really, and we will share fallout of this with you. There's also another gory one that Joseph is going to share I guess, right now. This one to a husband, we're told, who decided to wash his wife with acid. Can you imagine?
Wow. Yeah. It's happened at Madina Zungo. It's actually happened a year ago, but he has been on the run for 1 year. He was just arrested in this month here. And we are told that he had accused the wife of engaging in extramarital affairs. And so she was unhappy and she decided to pack out of the house. Now, the prosecution says when Adams saw that the wife had packed out, he came and demanded that his car documents, he could not find them. And so the accused threatened her that if he did not find the car documents, something will happen to her. Then on June 9, at about 10 p.m., he came to have a word with her. Unknown to her, he actually had the acid in some container that he was holding. Adams, who had concealed it with a polythene bag, poured it on her face and body and bolted. So the prosecution said she shouted for help and was rescued and rushed to the hospital. And so after being on the run for more than a year, close to a year, he was apprehended this month and he has been taken to court. He has pleaded not guilty, and so it's going to go through the full trial as it ought to go through. Evidence will be led and the court will decide. But he has been granted bail to the tune of 100,000 cedis with 4 sureties. And so, unfortunate story.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. I think also what is unfortunate about it is the fact that, well, okay, we don't know if he's guilty or not. So let me save the rest of the comments. But just updates on the father and stepmother of a boy in Cape Coast who jumped from a story building to his death. I remember that story. There's an update in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. The case is now in courts, and the judge has kept the two in police custody. They are to reappear on the 25th of September. So that's the updates with this. The deceased jumped from the top floor of the apartments in Cape Coast to escape further punishment from his father. And so they are supposed to assist in investigation. So there will be further updates on the 25th of September. Yesterday, Joseph, you shared the story about the man who stole 70 Ghana, the handbag that has 70 CDs. Okay, so I was just trying to read what has been reported today. After that, he actually also followed another lady to steal from her. That was when he was arrested.
After the 70
2 hours after the 70 CDs.
Oh, so he was more or less on a robbing spree.
Yeah, so it was on
the money wasn't enough for him.
Yeah, obviously. I guess, obviously when you realize that, oh, I actually got only 70 CDs, then you want more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he made it, I guess the reason I had issues with the 10 years, he made it a bit easy. He just confessed that, yes, I did it. And even took the police to where he had kept the bag.
Okay, you know. I guess still the nature of the crime, it didn't make the mitigation effects that should have come in with the pleading guilty and the fact that he had shown. So maybe the judge was actually, because the threat of harm, so that is what I think is the best the judge did for him actually.
Yeah, I agree. I just feel a bit sad for him because, he had, I don't know.
You've been sad for him from yesterday.
Because this somebody, he doesn't have a job. This is a jobless person. I'm not saying that if you don't have a job, go and steal. So you see, you don't have a job, you go and steal, you get a harsh sentence like this. You just worsen your case. Why don't you just do something, like something that will even earn you something small? Because what you really need is to survive, is to just get food to eat. So instead of going through the trouble of taking a knife and following someone and snatching their bag, why don't you help carry somebody's load or something? Get some 10 Ghana cedis or 5 Ghana cedis that can buy you food to eat to survive for the day. And keep hustling. I mean, all of us hustle every day. Let's do myjoyonline.com. Let's run through the stories on our page, myjoyonline.com, before we go. Joseph?
Okay, the stories on...
I think that the issue of legalizing Okada that the transport minister disclosed yesterday, it's a certain twist, isn't it? Just when the NDC said, "Oh, we will legalize it when
after
they
had actually made it illegal."
Exactly.
Now the government saying, "Okay, there's consultations actually ongoing,"
and they say it has nothing to do with the NDC. It's difficult to defend that, isn't it?
What are your own thoughts on that policy?
I just know that it's very annoying when you're driving behind a motor. See, the point is that our roads are not made for that. So I don't know if it's just like a populist thing that we're doing, or we're looking at the issue itself. What are we curing? We are curing the joblessness. That's what they say, because there are a lot of people who don't have jobs. But are we looking at the roads? Are we looking at the nature of our roads? What's the
indiscipline on the part of these riders?
Exactly. How are we fixing that too?
I saw the riders. I used the motorbike when I was in Rwanda, and it's nothing like what we see in Ghana. When you are driving and you are behind them, they get off the road. They get off the road quickly because they know that the road is for the cars. When the light is red, they all stop just in front of the cars. They move away. They stop. They don't move. They don't move in between the cars and try and break your side mirror and all those things that we all tend to experience. Yeah. And so there's a huge indiscipline challenge here that makes me fear for this policy. But aside from that, if you're able to deal with that, I mean, I see no reason why, like by Simmons was arguing, why I can have a motorbike and put you at the back and ride you, but when I decide to take money from you, it is illegal.
Just when our director started, playing the video, I don't know if you saw it. That's a motorbike riding on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah, just moving. The light is red. Yeah, just going.
So they say legalize and regulate. Jay, I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, myself, I mean, I was in Rwanda, and similarly, they were very well organized. I mean, they even have an outfit, different colors, which determines the areas that you move to. I mean, my biggest fear would regulate the operations of Okada. Sometimes you are in traffic, they pass by you, they break your mirror, they scratch you, and they don't even turn. I mean, acquiring driver's license too. How do we ensure that these guys have gone through the rigorous training for them to, understand the road traffic regulations through, various illegal means? And so it's worrisome. As much as we want to cure the issue of unemployment, for me, I think that as a bit populist, as always, we are trying to find a solution using a lazy approach when we could probably stem it from a different angle.
Well, Jay Hyde, thank you for today. You are back with us tomorrow as we wrap up the week. Thank you. Thanks a lot. That's the NUC's president, Isaac J. Hyde. Our reviewer this week, Joseph Akabley, is my colleague here. Thanks, Joseph.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'll wrap it up nicely with breakfast tomorrow, yeah?
That's nice.
And breakfast is Auntie Jane. Stay with us. We've got Sports Oracle is coming up. And Serena Williams, if you've been following the US Open, she's through to the semi-finals. Is this another Grand Slam for her? We'll tell you how it all went down. Stay with us for sports.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM Sports with me, Oreku Ampofo. We start off with our build-up to the special boxing documentary titled The Boxing Loan, and we hear from former Sports Minister His Excellency Amaka Matefio as he reviews that DK Poison actually won the bout in the dressing room ahead of his WBC title triumph over Ruben Olivares in 1975.
It was huge. It was momentous. To have this ultimate realization of a world champion not created politically outside the ring, but inside the ring. Incidentally, DK Poison's hand was not raised in the ring.
Tell me about that bit as well.
His hand was raised as champion in the dressing room.
Why?
Now, DK Poison, like Azuma Nelson, defeated a Mexican hero. He was invincible up to that time. He was really iconic. He was big. So, defeating him in Los Angeles, full of Mexicans and Latinos, the arena was full of them, was not acceptable to the fans. So they routed They threw chairs, you know, they couldn't intercept it. So in the confusion, DK Person had to be taken out of the ring. The police intervened. Atukwe Clotte, the coach at that time, was hit on the head. And we believe that eventually that led to his...
Hit on the head
with a chair.
With a chair.
Yes, with a chair.
From boxing, let's turn our attentions to football, and still on the local scene. Accra Hearts of Oak, we know, have already lost Joseph Esso, and reports suggest that they are on the brink of losing Kofi Koji. But the club has come out to say that they have not received any offer for their striker yet.
The Hearts of Oak striker reportedly got a deal from Qatar that was worth $200,000. However, the Phobia leadership decided to reject the offer, according to media reports. Communications director of the club, Kwame Opare-Addo, has been explaining to Joy Sports about the details of the offer that came in for the striker.
A club from Qatar sent an expressed interest in our player Kofi Koji, right? And then in that interest that they sent to us, there was nothing like we want to pay 1 cedi, 2 cedi, 3 cedi, and 4 cedis. So we got back to them that, look, if you want to have Kofi Koji to join your team, these are the things that we think that if you are able to do, we'll be able to release the player to you. So we sent out to them that we have two options. You pay $150,000 plus 30% onward transfer, or you pay $200,000 plus 20% onward transfer. So you decide which one you want. And some people have decided to make noise about it. You and I, if you have your RAM, whatever, in the house that somebody comes to buy it, and that individual says that, look, I want this, would you just say that, okay, take it away, without negotiating?
The media have claimed that Kofi Koji have asked the leadership of Accra House of Oak to permit him to depart from the club. Kwame Opare says the club will not prevent any player from moving on if he so desires.
When this offer came in, we didn't keep it away from the player. Through the, with the instructions of the CEO, I called the player, came to the office, he met the CEO. The CEO told him that this is the offer that you have, but we are discussing with them. We want the good for you, your player, and the best for the club as well. So once we arrive at a logical conclusion, why would we keep you? We will not.
Oftentimes, you would expect the club that is showing interest to make an offer for you to counter offer. At this point, you're telling us that they did not express interest in paying 1 cedi or 2 cedi, but you rather decided to tell them what to do.
Yes. Let me put it this way. When they brought their letter, right, there were no financial terms in it. They followed up with verbal submission of the price they want to give, and that's not the way for us to go. If you follow anything verbal with us, we don't see that as coming from a professional club. You need to put it on paper, make it very official, then we can also respond to it.
Verbal of how much?
Verbal of that, I think 150, 120, 150. I have to be very sure about that.
Kofi Koji joined Accra House of Oak prior to the start of the 2019-2020 Ghana Premier League season and scored 5 goals for the Phobians.
We still stay on the local scene, and this time we hear from former Sports Minister Nielante van der Poy, who has come out to back his party NDC, stating that choosing to make so many promises concerning sports does make a lot of sense because there are the numbers in sports and that gives an opportunity to boost the economy.
The NDC, during the launch of their manifesto for the 2020 general elections, announced a plethora of promises they intend to fulfill if they are given the mandate to govern the country for the next 4 years. Many have questioned how the party intends to honor these promises, but Neil Lanti-Vanderpoel, who was the sports minister under the NDC in 2016, spoke to Joy Sports about what the party considered before drawing the manifesto.
The fact that sports at this particular time in the world has become a very huge industry, and as such, if our manifesto is hinged on creating jobs, prosperity, and also inclusiveness, then it's important that we look at a sports policy and sports programs that will open opportunities for people to be employed, that will create jobs, that will also prosper people and let those who are involved in sports benefit from the sports, and also try and see that all people who are supposed to be in sports and who are in sports are given opportunity to benefit from the infrastructure and the development of the sports we have, and that not that we have sports exclusively for some people and then get some people off.
A notable policy in the manifesto was the development of a sports fund. Neil Lanti-Vanderpoel explained how the policy will be implemented.
Well, the sports fund is very feasible. It's been in almost all our manifesto since 2012. But you know, over the period, lack of resources, let me say the mainstream resource opportunity for the ministry has been the budget. And because we have been so national budget dependent, it was always difficult for us to be able to embark upon certain things that we envisage under the sports fund. But this time, with a big push, a lot of resources will be available for us to be able to support the institutionalization of the sports fund and so be able to cater for it. The sports fund is principally aimed at providing resources and making funds available for all the sporting associations apart from football to be able to embark upon their programs and activities for a year, and also make resources available for the payment of allowances and support and welfare packages for sportsmen and women, and also those people who are involved in the development.
The NDC has plans of completing the new Edubiasi Stadium and also lead a successful organization of the 2023 All-African Games.
Thanks to Oreku Ampofo with AM Sports. He's back tomorrow morning. Time now, though, for Voters' Voice. What 5 promises do you remember from the NPP and the NDC's manifesto? We hit Kumasi. We'll come back and speak to Mr. Paulo Seikufor, who's a Senior Programs Officer with the Center for Democratic Governance.
MPP making this promise that they will provide more jobs, they provide more employment. The NDC's manifesto that Okada was going to be legalized. And then I also heard of the fact that some tertiary students would have their fees absorbed.
Media said to me they said we go make about some buy NDC it is some say on legalize Okada NDC they don't quite am make kai so ban people they say free education and JHS no mail or momo and as I'm sitting sheriff for no on be more some be high diamond some
transforming some of the NAFTI into fully investable, and also building stadia at all the districts from the NDC. I think that's all that I remember from NDC camp.
Mama manifesto ni nyina no media men mini problem biya wo ni obi abeka because obi shebo a wondi so obi so shebo a obi di so NDC de ne de me mekai ne say wo se wo be ma invest ni private schools nyina obema private schools for so akoni free.
What I heard from the MPP manifesto is you can use your Ghana card for a loan if you are going to the university.
There may numerous and another say, so you university. Now we need to be out the bay, and I say, Juma, some near the beer, Unya, a queen out the bay, Juma. Or more queen my bank, I'm out loan for 1 year free. Now I started at the aye school when I say, Juma, some maybe up so your business, and I be bizarre. And any idea me and I end this if so much say, Mamma saw about improve jobs be brain near the other. And also near the Metifa, a woman in the parties in the Metifa.
So you had voices from Kumasi in the Ashanti region. On top of your head, what do you remember about the two manifestos, containing the two manifestos? What's even the significance of this? Joining us is Mr. Paul Osei-Kufuor, Senior Programs Officer with the Center for Democratic Development. He joins us via Zoom for a conversation. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time here on the AM show. You are listening. What do you make of what they had to say on top of their heads about the two manifestos?
Yeah, good morning, Mama V, and good morning to all your viewers. Basically, if you follow the trends in the policy discourse, you will notice that it is not surprising that citizens are not able to recall or are not showing a lot of interest in terms of what these manifesto policies of the MPP and the NDC contains. It dates back to how, as a country, we've not been able to find the right balance in terms of promoting active citizen participation in governance. If you look at local policies, some of our policies, for example, the manifestos are not necessarily different from some of the policy documents that comes out after elections. So let's take the budget, for example, both at the local and national level, at the national level, and let's take the national development policy frameworks. When you engage citizens a lot, you seem to get the feeling that they don't seem to know a lot about what is even contained in the budget document for them. They don't concern, even at the district assembly, the local government level, they don't seem to know much about, for example, the medium-term development plans. What proposals, what programs, how government prescribes to resolve some of the local problems in service delivery, water, sanitation. Most times when we engage citizens, you notice that there is a lot of lack of awareness among citizens on some of these policy documents. So personally, I'm not surprised that they are not able to give you, despite the plethora of manifesto promises, those that you spoke to are not able to give you most of the promises contained across sectors. So it dates back to how citizens have engaged with policy over time and how we've not opened the spaces enough for citizens to be part of the policy-making process, from the formulation to implementation to monitoring and evaluation and to reporting. And also, we've not reported having a continuous reporting mechanisms between policymakers and citizens or beneficiaries of these policies. So normally we go to them when we are formulating the policies, but the period in between the implementation of the policies and when another policy will be developed, maybe in 4 years' time, in the case of the manifestos, we don't seem to be engaging citizens enough, and we don't seem to be reporting or feedbacking to them for them to be part of the implementation. And that is why they have, you heard one of the respondents saying that they don't trust that much of what they say and what they are going to do, because they are not part of the process from its formulation to implementation to evaluation and to reporting. So it's only election period that we see political actors in the case of the manifesto, because they need citizens' vote. The manifesto is one of the markets, for one of the tools to market the political parties in terms of ideas and policies so that they'll be able to win votes. But going forward, if you are able to get citizens on board, and there have been a lot of reforms
well, but isn't that contrary to what the NDC, for instance, has said, that this is a people's manifesto and this is what the people wanted collectively?
Exactly, that's the point I'm making, that the formulation, they seem to engage. You see, I'm really putting this side by side with how we also formulate policies after elections. So I use the plan the medium-term plan or the local government medium-term development plan as an example, when formulating, in the same planning process, there are consultation mechanisms. They do public hearings and all that. In the same thing that the NDC did consultation, I'm sure the MPP might have done something similar. But the problem is when they come back into government or when they win power and occupy the seat of government, how do they maintain this relationship in the implementation of the policy proposals contained in the manifestos, which will then be metamorphosed into the medium-term policy frameworks? So the manifesto after elections is drafted into the medium-term policy framework for government. So most of the promises will find its way into the medium-term policy document. How are we continuing to maintain that relationship with citizens that we had at the drafting stage? Now the implementation stage, you have come to power. There seems to be a lacuna or gap trying to carry citizens on board. And that has always been the challenge. So most times when you go to communities, when you go to citizens and beneficiaries of services, they seem to have forgotten what they at the drafting stage they were involved in, because there is a lack of feedback to them at the policy formulation period. And that is the point I'm trying to make. So there's a drafting period, there's implementation period, and the implementation also goes with that's where government put together contracts and procurements to run out some of these policies and programs. They amend or change laws that are not in the interest of citizens. We must have a way of reporting and feedbacking to citizens. One thing that we've been doing very well is the Ministry of Information monthly or continuous engagement. But that one, I think, is only at the national level. You go to the local level, these kinds of policy engagement platforms are not strong enough. So if you look at some of the recent reforms, it seeks to bridge the gap between citizens and policymakers in terms of access to information. And that is why the right to information even comes in. For citizens to continue to engage policymakers, they demand information. If you look at the National Popular Participation Framework, it tells us so many measures, programs that can be implemented so that we bridge the gap in terms of information exchange between citizens and communities. And the most critical point that I also want to add is that if you look at the manifesto documents, and it's good that some of the political parties are making attempts to do translation into local languages. Mostly we forget that we have a huge population at the local level that also, even some of the words, how to translate them locally. Using our local languages is also a challenge. So some of the parties are considering the idea of translating the manifestos into some of our local languages. And I think the NDC attempt to do a Braille version is equally important. And I think we must do sector-specific kind of an abridged manifesto that you can even give to market women, where issues that talk about women, financial inclusion, access to credit, and something, a flyer, so that we reduce the burden we put on the public or citizens, all of us trying to resort to the large copious document that we even in the think tank sometimes think is too huge for us. It takes time to analyze and all that. That one will be the result of people like us who are policy analysts or working in the think tank. But you must find a way of packaging the information within the manifesto to meet different segments of the population. And that is how we cultivate interest. And we must find a way to be reporting back when we convert these manifesto promises into full-blown policies after elections.
Okay, great. So now that the people are aware, at least, that the two main political parties have a certain document that has their vision in there, as they go to them between now and very close to the election, what should the ordinary person be asking the political party representatives when they appear before them?
A very important point, and I'm happy that with lessons from COVID, we are not doing big rallies. I think we must bring some innovations to the way we are campaigning. When political parties, now they are holding small rallies, small community meetings, I think they must have platforms for participants or people who are at this crowd or at these small meetings to ask questions about their manifestos and to engage and begin to interact and interrogate some of their promises. I think they must begin to respond to some of the questions and concerns that have come out from the policies that they want to introduce. And then that is the way that you build trust. You cannot imagine that you've put out, it's a social contract. You've gone to them and this is what you are promising them. At every stage of the process, we must find ways of feedback, having a feedback into the policy conversation or into the policy discourse. We should not always continue to have the situation where it becomes a lecture, always when we are engaging with potential beneficiaries or citizens. We must be innovative to also create opportunity for question and answer sessions when we meet the youth, when we meet women, when we meet communities. I think we should allow them to interface into the conversation so that it becomes a two-way affair, and then they can begin to develop the trust and integrity required in the manifesto frameworks.
Okay, so two key questions that the ordinary citizen can ask the political party representatives when they appear. Two key questions.
Two key questions. If you look at the manifesto, some people have the conception that you cannot necessarily make a comprehensive proposal on financing or the trade-offs. But certainly you agree with me that you cannot also, drawing on lessons from previous manifestos, you cannot also implement every promise that is contained in the manifesto. Certainly there will be trade-offs. There will be opportunity costs. The more we are demanding for one, because our resource envelope is not that huge. And even the NDPC, which is planning for the country, is doing what we call the Ghana Priority Project. Because they know that we cannot respond at a goal or our priority, or our demands as a country from various interest groups, communities, and all that. So we must begin to interrogate and ask them, what are your priority projects?
Okay.
Because it's a whole long list. They must begin to give us their priority projects, first year in government, second year in government, third year in government, and fourth year in government, so that we can measure them accurately and strengthen the accountability process. That is one.
Okay.
Then the second point is they must begin to throw in some financing measures. We are in COVID period. We are in austere moments. Our revenue projections are not likely to be the same as it is. Unfortunately, the political parties keep promising. They must tell us very innovative, genuine, and tried and tested mechanisms that they are going to raise revenue. Because if you look at our current revenue position, domestic revenue, we are even challenged as to how we are financing our debts, our interest on our debts and all that. So we are really in a difficult moment. But if you look at a long list of promises, I think the political parties, some of the key promises or flagship promises, they must begin to tell us what kind of financing arrangement. More give us actual figures, facts, to back, not all of them. Some of them just require policy change, taking a bill to parliament. But there are some of them that are very catalytic, that are very, they are huge. They require huge financial outlay to implement them. So these are the two things that they must give us the first, second year, give us some kind of moderated targets that they want to achieve from the long list, and give us some key proposals as to how they are going to raise revenue in the midst of COVID, what kind of projections that they have done, so that we can enhance the trust in the manifesto.
Thank you for arming us with these two questions, which I think is very important. Thank you. The last bit, though, because you brought the National Development Planning Commission into the conversation. How much, so, they are doing the national planning, but this is essentially the political parties' manifesto that if they want power, we will be holding them accountable to the things contained in it. So how do we merge on the national level, the national planning, and then the party's manifesto? How does it work?
My sister, it's a very important question you have raised. You see, our politics is too adversarial. It's characterized with a lot of conflict and opposition. I think there are certain national programs that we must have a bipartisan consensus to push it. The NDC started with a constitutional review it appears we are not paying too much attention to constitutional review process. The 40-year development plan, the same thing. Currently, we are having the Ghana Beyond 8. And I doubt if when there is a change in government, you will see the continuity design in this kind of policy formulation mechanisms or policy process. As I said, we must build some bipartisan approach, though we have not been able to do that, so that we all agree the NDPC is there. We must find a way to strengthen the NDPC so that it provides the technical support for us to have long-term projections. Certainly, we cannot tie the hands of the two political parties that when you come to power, do A, B, or C, or D. But we must have some desired end or desired objectives. If we talk about education, there are certain desired about quality, about access. There are certain desired ends that we all wish to get there. And if you look at the Constitution, directive principles of state policies provides certain obligations on governments to provide for citizens. Economic objectives, you have educational objectives, you have rights for people with disabilities. It talks about reducing inequality and avoiding issues of discrimination, support for PWD. So our Constitution already gives us a framework. All that we need is to have a bipartisan conversation as to what do we want to achieve in terms of the framework set by the Constitution. We also have the SDGs. Unfortunately, the NDPC has always been sidelined in all our policy conversations, and it seems to appear that they are not playing the central role required much of them. So the next government, I think, should find a way of building consensus around a long-term development plan so that all the political parties, the various interest groups, will have a role to play and we will all commit to the process. It's not going to tie their hands, as I've said. It's going to give them projections and goals where we want to get to maybe in the next 30 or 40 years. But it will still allow for contestation. And that is what we are doing at the moment. MPP promising that this is the way that they want to address access or they want to address issues of TVET. That platform for contestation of ideas will still exist. But certainly, it's good that you have a desired end or a desired goal as to where you want to get to in the next 40. Or most of the developing countries all did that. So I think if you have that, then we can also begin, if the 40-year development plan has been accepted by both governments and is being used and is being adopted strongly, it will have been easy to benchmark it with what is in the manifesto promises currently. But unfortunately, I mean, all is not lost. As I said, the constitutional provisions are there. The Sustainable Development Goals also provide some targets for government. So all these manifesto proposals are aiming at addressing some of these national priorities and development, international or global development frameworks, which is required for us to become a sustainable economy.
Okay. All right. Mr. Polio Virus, we'll leave it here. But thank you very much for joining us on Voters' Voice. He's a senior programs officer with the CDD.
Thank you very much.
All right. Remember the two key questions that he said we should ask them when they appear before us. Well, the promises are so many. So what are the priorities? What do you intend doing in the first year, in the second year, in the third year, and in the fourth year? These are very important. And the second one, well, COVID has come to disrupt a lot of things. So where are you going to get the money to do these things that you've said you will do? If we all did this, of course, we will have a better governance system. That's Voters' Voice for today. Now, let's look at our NSMQ trivial question for the day. Today is #Biology Thursday. So our question today, if you think you have the answer, what is another name for the voice box? I'll open the phone lines so you can join me. And then we've also posted this on Facebook. So if you've got the answers to it, you might want to do Facebook, or you wait for it as we open the phone lines and then you join us with your answers. Again, I'm not sure what you're winning if you got this correct, but there's a gentleman who's on this beat, so he's got your prizes. I'll pull him up here so he can tell you what you'll be winning if you got this answer correct. What is another name for the voice box? What is the voice box? But of course, we'll be bringing you updates on the National Science and Maths Quiz. Remember, it's the preliminary competitions that's going on. And we will tell you what happened yesterday when we bring you that package. Oh, so let's just get into the NSMQ trivial right now. If you know the answer to the question, what is another name for the voice? It's real quick. So give me a call, 0302-211-6912. 0302-211-6912. We'll also check out what you have been seeing on Facebook as well. This is real quick, in about like 5 minutes. We should be done with this. Albert is in Hohoy. Good morning, Albert.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling.
Actually, I'm following the program on the telly.
Okay.
And
Albert, have you called me with an answer?
Yeah, with the answer.
Okay, so what's the answer?
The answer is epiglottis.
The answer is what?
Epiglottis.
Hey, okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. I don't even know the answer. So we'll see. What would you like to win in the end if you got this right?
Oh, anything goes for me.
Anything goes for you. All right. But have you been following the National Science Maths Quiz?
Very well, yeah.
Okay. What's your school? Your old school?
My old school is Bishop Herman College.
Say again?
Bishop Herman College.
Oh, Bishop Herman. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Albert, I'll be keeping my fingers crossed. Where is okay, so you can also give me a call on 0302-211-6912. My producers will have to tell me the answer to this one because I have no idea what this is. What is another name for the voice box? If you think you know the answer, let's go to Facebook right now and let's see what people have been saying on Facebook. All right, we'll go to Facebook shortly, but let's still stay with the phones. Abdul Majid is calling us. Good morning.
Please, good morning.
Good morning. Where are you reaching us from?
The answer for voice box is, another name for it is trachea.
Another name is what?
Trachea.
Trachea.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you for trying. As I've said, I don't know, so we'll see if you're right. Emmanuel is in Tamale. Emmanuel, good morning.
Good morning, Mama B. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm doing good.
Nice. I guess you've been following the NSMQ?
Yes, I have.
All right. So what's the answer to this question?
I think it's the larynx.
You think it's the what?
Larynx.
Okay.
Larynx.
All right. Did you Google it?
Oh, no.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you.
A very good school, so.
Oh, you went. What school did you go to? Please come again. Okay. All right. Thank you, Emmanuel. Let's go to Abdullah. Abdullah is in Teshiman. Good morning, Abdullah.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Thanks for joining us. What's the name of your school?
I'm Kongwe Abdullah. I completed Zorongo Senior High School, Balgatanga.
Okay. So what's the answer to the question?
It's larynx.
Larynx?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks for trying. I've gotten like 3 different answers, correct? I think I've gotten 3 different. Oh, Sam is in Wa. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Usam.
Usam. Okay.
Usam.
Okay, great. Please. Yeah. What's the answer to the question? What's another name for the voice box?
Larynx.
Larynx.
Yes.
Okay. Did you Google it?
No, please.
Okay.
I'm a former science student.
Oh, okay. So what is the voice? What is voice box?
Larynx.
Yeah, but what is voice box?
Yeah, that is the scientific name, but the common name is the voice box.
Okay. I was hoping that you could, as a science student, you could explain to us, those who did arts, who are not familiar with what the voice box is in the first place. But let's hear from Abdul Razak. Abdul Razak is also calling from Tamale. Good morning, Abdul Razak.
Good morning.
Yes,
Please,
sir.
the other name for the voice box is...
Mm-hmm.
The other name for the voice box is trachea.
Okay. Are you also a science student?
No, I'm a home science student, but I attended school at Tamale Islamic Science.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for trying, Abdul Razak in Tamale. My producers will have to tell me how many answers did I, like different answers did I get? 4 different answers. The correct one is what? So I'm told I got 4 different answers, but there's a correct one in there. I don't know who gave me the correct one. But can we go to Facebook now? Okay, let's do Facebook. Let's see what we're getting from Facebook. If you Google this, would you get the correct answer? Okay, let's see. Sam says Adam's apple. Ablo, Soa says sound system. NS JV Danka says, Echo, you have to help me to pronounce this. Lungs. Larynx. Larynx. Okay. Clemens says larynx or vocal cord. Is it the same? Bridget says you call it voice box. In Germany, we call it larynx or the throats. Okay. Conscious says larynx. Somebody says loudspeaker. Joseph says larynx. Kujo says swallowing box or laughing box. Adam's apple. Canterbury says, Bunia says esophagus. So I think I know what the correct answer is. Awume says thyroid gland. Good luck Sterling says, is that pharynx for throats? Larynx for voice box. Okay. All right. Bass in your Is it bass or buzz? Danny says larynx is the correct answer. All right. I think we have enough responses. There are lots of you who are saying larynx. Okay. Which includes your vocal cord. Excuse me? So apparently I'm not allowed to tell you what the correct answer is. But the correct answer will be here tomorrow, same time. You just have to stay tuned in. And I'll tell you, because you have to win something. It can't just go like that. Is the NSMQ Biology Thursday, hashtag Biology Thursday, and that's the trivial question for today. If you think the correct answer is not in there from the responses, just go to Facebook and also add your voice to it. But thank you, for letting us know what you feel and giving us your answers. The broadcast of the 2020 National Science and Maths Quiz is brought to you by Joy News, of course, your most credible news channel, and supported by Bright Senior High School in Kokron Tumi, building dreams, shaping future. DBS Roofing Papa Pafi, Adonko hand sanitizer, Koropo Suro, Adonko Next Level Energy Drink, the premium energy drink. When we come back, we're talking about a very important subject. We're talking suicide. We've got somebody who attempted it and who is joining us for a conversation. You know, the most challenging conversations to have are usually the ones we need to have the most. Talking about suicide makes it more real, but choosing silence is not the answer. With more people both attempting and committing suicide each year, it is more urgent than ever that we keep the conversation open and honest about suicide. That's exactly what we're about to do. Stay with us. Reflect on the words. You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You're not hopeless, though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I'll send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. This is a very open conversation on World Suicide Day. We want to keep it very honest as well. It is a hard number to swallow, though. but around 81% of suicidal people tell someone what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. It is time to get honest about suicide prevention. If many who attempt suicide give some clue or warning, then we need to look out for the signs. That's why we're having this conversation on this very important day. Let me introduce to you my guest who will be joining us on Zoom. Dr. Eugene Dodoy is head Department of Psychological Medicine and Mental Health, School of Medicine, University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ho. Doc, I see you. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to have you. In the studio is Corinne De Silveira. She's a suicide survival and suicide prevention advocate. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your presence. It means everything to me. Also joining in the conversation is Dr. Joanna Larry-Afutu. She's a clinical psychologist. Good morning to you, Doc. I see you too.
Good morning.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
I want us to begin. Okay, so let me begin with you, doctors. Do we have statistics? How does it look like in our country? How does it look like in your place of work, for instance?
Okay, so I would like to go. So some suicidologists in Ghana have recently conducted some research in suicide, and I am privileged.
All right, unfortunately, because we're using technology, it's freezing, but she was just about sharing something really important with us. We're going to get her back. Dr. Dodoy, is there something that you want to share in terms of what the statistics are, perhaps? Dr. Eugene Dodoy, if you can hear me, I'm asking if there are statistics to share. What are the trends?
The statistics are varying, and it's, as an academician, I really should give reliable data. The challenge we have with suicide in Ghana largely is because the attempt of suicide is criminal. So as a doctor, if you see a patient who is suicidal, you are by law obligated to report to the police. So you are always in a dilemma whether to help your patient or whether to go to the police about the patient who is telling you about a crime, supposedly. So the world over has it that there are, the most likely person to die by suicide is an elderly male, white male over 70 years. But we know that 2 out of every 3 suicides occur in 3 countries: China, Japan, India. Not just because of their sheer numbers, but there are other reasons why they, also have a cultural and other underpinnings why they commit the most. They die by suicide most. We are trying to run away from the word commit because people actually don't commit suicide. People die by suicide. If you commit, it's like it's a crime or it is a sin, something like that. But suicidal behavior is obviously a symptom of an illness. So to use the word commit is even, very bad to use the word commit. And it's very sad that on the World Suicide Prevention Day, like today, Ghana as a country has codified attempted suicide as a crime when our colonizers, in fact, decriminalized it in 1961, and we codified it in 1960. So it's quite sad. When it comes to the age brackets, apart from the elderly male, we know that especially for studies in North America, in the US, for the children or young people between ages 15 and 24, suicide is the 3rd most common cause of death for them. Unfortunately, they die either by road accident, somebody killing them, or they killing themselves. So suicide is the number 3 cause of death among our young people, which is a very worrying trend because these are the brain and brain potential of our countries, of any country. So it's very sad when we have the young people also dying by suicide. And that has been our challenge. I mean, both the suicidologists, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, this is where our problem has been, that younger people are dying by suicide. And in Ghana, so let's come home. Our statistics have usually been from what the media reports, but technically that cannot be used as a basis. Even though those numbers are worrying, the fact that the media reports somebody is hanging cannot be conclusive that the person died by suicide.
Correct.
Because if somebody kills and hangs somebody, it will be considered as suicide. So technically, to use media reports, which we have been using in Ghana as a data, is not the best form of data that we collect. But the challenges are that we don't have any system to collect data on suicidal behavior in Ghana, unfortunately. And we've had some of the audacious suicidal behaviors, like a young lady in the university threw herself on a multi-floor, about I think 4th or 5th floor down. Usually women who die by suicide use the peaceful means of death. Probably the most violent is drowning, but they will use drug overdose or something. But for a woman to throw herself down a multi-story building, knowing that there's no chance of survival, that is quite a violent means of death that young women don't use elsewhere. So if our young women are even going by that, that is the worst case scenario. And it's very sad that this has happened. Unfortunately, this happened to, not to really remind the family, but a lawmaker's daughter, okay? And it is our lawmakers who have to repeal this law of criminal behavior, of suicidal attempt being a criminal behavior. So we have a very long way to go. If we don't do anything about the law, it'll be difficult to monitor suicidal behavior. If we don't monitor suicidal behavior, it's difficult to get good statistics. And if you don't get good statistics, then it is almost impossible to put in any intervention that will help people like Karen. So Karen more or less went through the cracks. So she was suicidal and she was not sent to prison. Others have been jailed because they were suicidal. And they are now considered ex-convicts. That is how bad it is. So basically you are being thrown into jail or criminalized because of a symptom of your illness. So like saying you have a high blood pressure, so go to jail for it. Or saying you are overweight, so go to jail for it. That is how bad we are telling the people who have symptoms of an illness.
Sure.
And it's I don't know, it's just unthinkable.
Yeah.
Insensitive for us as a nation to people with suicidal behavior.
We will hear Karen's story, but we've got a stable connection now to Dr. Joanna Larry-Futu. Doc, thank you. Let's hear you now.
Okay, so as I was saying, some suicidologists have attempted getting into people's space to find out how many people have attempted or have even thought about committing suicide ever. And in the rural communities, they found that 1 in 10 adults have ever thought about taking their own lives due to life's challenges, several life's challenges. Again, in the junior high schools, we've found out that about 3 in 10 people or students have ever reported of taking their lives. When we go to the senior high schools, we have about 2 out of 10 people reporting similar attempts or similar thoughts. Then there is also a very peculiar group, the LGBT adolescents who are torn between either being a male, going gay, or homosexual. that community also, about 2 in every 5 of them have ever thought of poisoning themselves or injuring themselves towards suicidal behavior. And so this is basically what we have. Then when you go to the school for the deaf, we have 1 in 10 out of that also reporting that they have ever thought of taking their own lives. So basically, that is what we have now. Research is still ongoing for future reports.
Okay. I want us to just listen to Karen's story. I'll come back to you, Dr. Joanna Larry Futu and Dr. Eugene Dodoy. Karen, thank you for being brave about this, really, and sharing your story.
Thank you.
And being an advocate, which is really important.
Sure.
What you share, I can share.
Right.
So it makes all the difference. The doctors can't even share what you can share.
Right.
So how long ago did this happen to you?
This was, say, it started in 2009. That was somewhere in, after I had completed senior secondary school.
Okay.
So that process was a thought because I wasn't comfortable in my skin. Then it went on to me being sexually abused by someone I trusted as a friend who I knew and who dragged me. And I saw the person coming onto me, but I was too weak to fight it off. Now, after that experience, when I got home, I was like in the shower for almost 2 hours. Nobody could find, nobody knew. My brother was around, my mom was around, my dad was around, but they didn't know what was happening. So I was like, I'm gonna end it. I'm done. There's nothing. And funny enough, the next day I have work. And the next day I went to work like nothing happened. And when I got to work, I broke down. I couldn't do anything. So I had to go to my HR and go see, boss, this is what has happened. I can't do this right now. I can't concentrate. I need time off and I can't be here. So all through, he said, okay, he understood and I left. But I don't think they understand because at the end of the day, they needed me at work at a particular period in time. Say you said this and they'll give you 3 days, go and think about it.
But did you tell him exactly what he had gone through?
Yeah, I actually said it.
Why were you comfortable telling him, but you didn't tell family?
No, the thing was, at that point, when it happened, and I'm like, I'm the type who is not, who can bounce back from anything.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, now I can bounce back and later go through the process of the pain and go through whatever I went through.
So are you the independent kind?
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
Because I can relate.
I am. So I thought I could just bounce back and be okay. So then I got to work. So in the car going to work, I felt like it was coming. The darkness was just clouded. So in the car, something said, jump out of the car. You get it? The voice said, jump out. This is the end. Just finish up with it. But then I was able to get to work. When I got to work, before I even got down from the car, I'm like, Karen, you can do this. Let's go. So I got to work and I was there and I'm like, no, I can't. So luckily the HR I spoke to was a female. So, and I had known her for years because I've been working there for a period of time. So I called her and I told her, I can't do this. And she kept asking me, what is wrong? And it took time for me to even break what had happened to her because she didn't get it. So I finally confided in her. I said, this was what had happened. I need to leave ASAP. And on my way home, it was still like that. I'm like, okay. So at a point, I got down at the car at the beach area.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, so this is it. What are we going to do? Do you jump? Do you do this? Then another silent voice came in. Karen, no, don't, please. At least just go home and say something to somebody. I go home, normal, I keep to myself. I'm a kind of a reserved type. So when I go home, everybody thought everything was normal. But they didn't know that was the day I was about to. Nobody knew. I saw my brother, I saw my mom, I saw my dad. And funny enough, I was giving, you know, I give a hint like, I am not fine, I'm not okay. And you know, when you say that, you know, my brother knows me to be somebody who speaks to people, who encourages people, motivates people. So sometimes when I talk to him, he says, you're a motivator, you know, that kind of a thing. So he can't identify with what I'm going through because he thinks I'm stronger than it. So even when I tell him, no, today I'm not fine, he said, I'm a motivator like you, but that is more what I need at that period. So I went to my room, I wrote a letter down. And
do you remember what you said?
Yeah. That letter I'm talking about today, a friend of mine sent, he kept that note. And he sent it to me like 4 years after, because he saved me. Wow. He came, as everybody had gone to work by then. He came, and when he came, he was like, what's wrong? And he's the type, we don't talk often, but he can sense when I'm not okay. He called 1, 2, 3, he didn't get through to me, he just came. So when he came, the letter was there, the knife was there, the concoction was there. And when he came, he just grabbed me. He said, Karen, no. So at that point, he was even confused. He didn't even know what to do. I remember he called his sister, and this person I'm talking about is Bamidele Stevens, Abeku Stevens. Wherever you are, I say thank you, because you are part of the reasons of my life today. He was like, you're not going to do it.
So this is just a friend who had tried to reach you.
Yeah.
Who couldn't get through.
And he came.
And decided, let me just follow up.
And see where Karen is. So.
And that's the moment where you had written.
Oh, the letter.
So essentially like your last words.
Yeah, that was my last words. And at this point, probably my family watching doesn't know about it.
Who were you speaking to in that letter? Who were you hoping would read it?
My family. Mostly that's my stronghold. I'm not a social butterfly, so I don't really have a lot of friends. Yes, so.
But what were you telling them in that letter?
In that letter, I was like, I wish I could explain it better for you to understand, but I can't. And I'm sorry I'm doing this. I love you so much, and you know I love you. I need you to. And I was like, I told my brother, Nath, take care of mommy and dad. You know I love you, but I need to go. Yeah. And my brother never got to see this letter we are talking about. He doesn't even know about it. And that would have been like the last day I would have seen everybody. And I wouldn't be this woman I am here today. Yes, like 4 years or 5 years down the line talking to you in this seat. I wouldn't be the woman I am today, and I am I am thankful. Again, Bamidele Abeku Stevens, Auntie Boydiwa, Auntie Mimi, Shati, Frida Jenfra, Samuel Kelly Brew. Now, these are people who never gave up. These are people who reached in. These are people who knew Karen is, and I don't talk. That's the thing. I won't talk because I feel like when I come to you, I go like I'm not okay, and go like, oh, Karen, you uplift others. You do this to others. So they don't get it.
And so I guess the difficulty is they don't even know what to say. Like,
exactly.
What can I say to a person like you? You always find the right things to say. What can I say to you?
Exactly.
And I guess sometimes it's also like, it means I have to explain myself because I don't think they are on my level. Like,
right,
they can't get it.
Right.
I can relate. Like, you know, because of the kind of person, your nature.
Right.
That's why I feel I can relate in terms of
right,
that.
Right.
But you talked about secondary school.
Yeah.
What was it about secondary school that you didn't think?
Okay, so during second, as I said, I was a laid-back person. I talk to people every time, but you didn't find me in too much crowd and everything. So in secondary school, I remember one of my teachers straight like telling me you won't amount to anything just because I didn't do well in a particular subject. So I had one, I was always intimidated. One, I couldn't speak in a crowd. I didn't have a voice of my own. And I was always scared of what ABC things, how they are going to take it, what are they going to say. So I was in my own space. So I remember in secondary school, at home we have this drag box. There was a drag where we put drugs. So I mixed the drugs up. I brought it to school. I brought the drugs to school.
Okay.
So after class, I had some people I had gone to JSS with. We met up and we were talking. And they were laughing, but they didn't know what I was doing. I dashed out. I took the drugs, and I was waiting to go. But then it wasn't happening. Nothing was. I was like, so this suicide cry. So they thought something was wrong with me, but they couldn't figure it out because I still blended in quickly, like I was okay. So at that point, so it started way back from there. I'm not enough. I can't fit in. I'm different. Nobody understands me. They can't give me, they can't identify. Sometimes all I need is for you to listen. I don't need anything. Sometimes I just want you to listen, give me a hug and tell me, Karen, we are going to get through this. We'll be fine. But unfortunately, during that period, I didn't get that. So that is when the sexual abuse aspect came in. I capitalized and then went like, okay, now I already feel empty. I already feel, how do you call it? I have that void that I need to feel that nothing is feeling it. And someone that I trust with my all, that I have known since childhood, who is a friend, for you to even think about not doing this to anybody, but someone who encourages you, uplifts you, for you to take advantage of me. And funny enough, what killed me was after the scene, I reached out to him. I wanted to understand why. You get it? You know me, we vibe, so why? And you know the words he told me, he was like, this is what happens when you deny someone for too long. And it's not as if me and you have a relation, an emotional entanglement. Let me see, that's the new word now. Entanglement, or we are in a relationship. That is different. But if anybody could do that, no, you, come on. It should be someone different. So that killed me. And that's why that was the final moment for me.
The friend who came?
Right.
What did he do?
Okay, so when he got in, I remember I saw, thank you, I saw my phone ringing, but I didn't pick up because I didn't want, in that space, all I see is darkness. I don't see anything. I saw him calling me, and I did not pick his calls. Then he came through the gate. So he saw what I was doing. First of all, what I did was I broke a bottle, so I cut myself. So already I was oozing out. Blood was oozing out from my hand before Bamidele Abeku Stevens got in. Now when he got in, he held me and went like, no, you can't do this. So quickly Bamidele called his sister. He wanted help. And he called a friend he knew, okay, this is a sister to Karim. And when my friend was, said, Karim, pick up the phone. pick up. And this is a friend who lived like a distance where you can just come, that your friend is going through something. She didn't come. So Abeku Stevens was there. Then there's another friend of mine called Sebastian Tay, who also later came in. And these two, and funny enough, when they were there, they held my hand because my blood, there was blood oozing out from my hand. Abeku took his handkerchief, tied my hand to just stop the blood flow. And by the time they realized, barefooted, I ran out. I went to stand in the road. Like, I was like, okay. So they followed, then they pushed me off. They pushed me off. Abeku pushed me off with Sebastian, pushed me off the road. Then they brought me back. So these two were with me through it. And if it wasn't for them, it would have been another issue.
Only because you're looking back now?
Only because I'm looking back now.
Yeah.
Now, if it wasn't for them, the timely intervention of my friend, today I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be like this. I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't get to where I've gotten to today to be in a position to uplift others and tell you, I see you.
Yeah.
I know what you're going through. And look at me, I believe in you. And suicide shouldn't be the last option. Look at me, look at my story, and I'm telling you, whoever is watching this today, I want you to know this. I believe in you, I see you, you're an amazing soul. Anybody who has told you that you can't make it, you won't amount to something, look at me. Don't do it. Reach out. Reach out. Talk to somebody. I need you to talk. Talk to somebody. Right now, fortunately, there are helplines around to help you when you're going through this particular phase in your life. A normal person would understand you. So I'm reaching out to everybody. I know someone in here, one person is looking at me and is thinking about the hopelessness of the situation, is thinking about, I can't make it, I am done, I can't do this anymore. Look at me, talking to you today. Someone saved me, and I'm here to save as many people as I can. Don't do it. We will go through it together. I am with you, we are with you till the end, and I am here and I'm not stopping till we make the world a better place.
I'll come back and talk to you about the people who come out when they hear your story, because you've been going around quite a bit.
Right.
The people who run to you and say, you've just said to me everything I've been going through, and you're the person that I needed. Thank you for coming. I'll let you share those moments with us. But let me engage our doctors. Dr. Joanna Larry Futu, you've been listening, but I also do know that there are people that you come into contact with who also have various stories to share. And they're not just stories. These are personal things that people have gone through. How different is Karin's story from the many others that you've heard?
Well, they are similar. Most times, and statistics have it that about 90% of suicide cases have mental health problems or psychosocial problems underlying them. And so they are very similar. But just to add to, in fact, I would want to congratulate Karin for the steps she's taking, because several people out there are going through a lot. And coming out is a very difficult thing to do, because if I come out, who will understand me? Nobody would. People feel that nobody would understand even if I tell my story. Just like Karin, she attempted several times seeking help, but people thought that, look, this is somebody we can't support because she has been supporting us. But I want to tell everybody watching that we all have down moments in life. Every individual has a story. And the fact that people have not succeeded in committing suicide means that one person or a group of people reached out to such people. Sometimes you may not know you are saving somebody. So people come out and then maybe in a conversation, what you say encourages somebody. And so we should be more encouraging in relationships. I picked out something very important from what she said concerning her HR. This is somebody who could have done something immediately, but again, she didn't know what to do. And I would encourage that if you don't know what to do, there are helplines which would be given out. If you don't know what to do, reach out to a professional. If you don't have the helplines, just ask around or go to a psychiatric hospital, go to the psychiatric unit of general hospitals. There is help available for people who need such help in difficult times.
So, Doc, what I hear you saying is that the HR shouldn't have just granted her those leave days and let her go.
No, it was okay. It was okay, but if she had known that maybe going the extra mile to seek support for her would help, she would have done that. But of course, she didn't know how to do that. And so this is a lesson to all of us. There is support available. Don't gloss over people's issue. If somebody tells you that I don't feel fine, you can just go the extra mile to find out what is it. If you feel that you don't have the capacity to help, just walk the person to maybe a psychiatric unit of a general hospital, a psychiatric hospital, just for the help. Because social support in these times is very, very important.
Dr. Dodoy,
Dr. Dodoy would add on.
Yes, yeah. I just want to bring him in. And I wanted to ask Karen what if they had reported to the police? And I guess that's one of the things that you've been saying. What if? What if?
So essentially what we are saying is that if Karen had been reported, she would have been jailed. She couldn't be doing what she's doing now. She would be an ex-convict. That is very important. And there was a time I wanted to come on air, I think it was Joy FM, with, some of my patients I've treated in the past. And then I asked the producer that if I come and these people come to confess to a crime, can they, provide them immunity from prosecution? The answer was no. So even as Karen is there, currently she has confessed to a crime. So police can pick her up right now. That is how bad the situation is. That because she was ill, now she is a criminal person. She's a bad person. That is how, dire the consequences of criminalizing suicidal behavior is. And there are many people like Karen who come out, and I always say that many people who are helped, when they don't die, are grateful they were not allowed to die. So if we have this evidence that people who do not die are grateful for not dying, why do we think that people wanting to die by suicide is a criminal behavior? When really, it is a cry for help. It's a deep cry, I don't know what to do. With Karen's situation, what we advocate is to have what we call employee assistance program in organizations where the organizations would employ either a psychologist, we can have one in-house or one out-house, who, when people have psychological problems, addiction problem, alcohol problems, they reach out to these people, and then we seek the necessary help. The HR manager might not have been trained in mental health, but they should know that the mental health of people affect their productivity. In fact, the definition of mental health is being able to overcome your personal stresses and all that and contribute to society. So mental health is largely linked to productivity. So when we don't have quality mental health, it affects our productivity.
Doc, there's something...
I'll be very happy if trade unions stand up and insist on employee assistance programs, which are simply to help situations like this.
Okay.
It's sad that we are coming from kind of a deep depth. We are coming from criminal nature of suicidal behavior. We are coming from no institutions. We are coming from no psychologists being employed in our organizations and our schools. So a whole lot of, things we got to put in place.
Okay.
It's quite sad, but probably with your advocacy, with your light lenses shown on this topic, important topic, probably, we'll make a headway one step at a time. I believe.
All right. Okay. I want to leave the last say to Karen. Karen, very important. What kind of conversation do you think your brother could have had with you? Or even those friends who feel that you say all the right things, there's nothing that they can say. In that moment, what could somebody do?
Listen. You see, it's important because when you miss just a second, just giving someone a listening ear who is clouded with darkness, that could be the end of the person. So if somebody comes to you and tells you, I'm not okay, and the person tells you, I need to talk to you, or I need someone to talk to, I beg you, you don't know what the person is going through. Just spare 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and listen to the person. And don't, you see, in that phase, when you're going through that phase, when somebody starts talking to you about God, it won't solve it. When I'm going through that phase and you come to me and tell me how what I'm doing is a sin and I'm going to hell, it won't stop me from what I'm going to do. Because you are worsening my case. That is not when I need that. Probably when I'm a bit okay, then you can bring in the God factor. But if you start by talking to me about God in those initial stages and how I'm going to hell when I do that, it will not solve how I feel. So I'm reaching out to everybody, anybody who comes to you and tells you, I'm not okay. And mind you, the most happiest people, the people who you see joking around and you find that they are nothing happening to, trust me, they are the people who can go faster than you think. Because everybody sees them in that light, they don't think something is wrong to it. So when they come to you and tell you, I am not okay, I beg you, just 2 minutes. And you listen, don't judge. In cases like that, don't judge. Just listen and let the person know, I am with you. We will get through. Don't make it sound like you will go through this. You will come out of it. You will be okay. We will get through this. We will be okay. I am with you. In those points in time, just those few minutes could make a difference. Every few minutes in someone who wants to commit suicide, like every second counts. And if you don't say the right thing, in my brother's case, he didn't know.
Does he know now?
He knows bits and pieces of it. Okay. I think this will come to him, it will hit him kind of because he doesn't really know the details.
And your parents?
Yeah, my father knows about it. My mom knows about it now. And
how did they react to it? Did they blame themselves?
You know, obviously my mom cried.
Yeah.
You know, because me and my mom, we are like, no one's like that, we vibed. So
I'm sure she was asking herself, what did I do so that she couldn't tell me all these?
You know, at that point, probably she would ask herself alone, but at that point, it was just a hug. And when it comes to my dad, he was trying to explain to me, make me see, reason with me. That was after all this. They didn't even know the magnitude of what I was about to do. But at this point, they know, and they've been amazing people in my life. There's been a source of, help for me, and I'm grateful for having such a family who didn't make me feel like I was an outcast, didn't make me feel like I was the mensa in the house, that kind of a thing. And the love for me from them, they've been supportive.
Just the last thing, because I asked the reaction when you speak to people who can identify.
Now, one thing, what gave me a wake-up call was my dad and I, we traveled together. That was somewhere last year. For a funeral for my great granny. So when we were there, I spoke to a friend, Sarah. God bless her soul. Wherever you are, rest easy. I got a call. So my dad was in the hall from where we were. So I was in the room. Sarah called me 2 days prior. Sarah said, and we were even talking about Putin, the Russian president, and we were laughing about it because we were cracking jokes about it. So 2 days prior. I've been, when I woke up, something didn't sit right. I'm like, let me call Sarah. What's happening? I called. Nobody was picking up. I was still not okay, so I was still calling, and someone picked up. And I'm like, oh, can I kindly talk to Sarah? And he said, your friend is no more. The exact statement was, Sarah is no more. This is Karen, right? Your friend is no more. I think the person saw my name as, your friend is no more. I'm like, I asked what you're saying. So my dad was there. He came to the room. I shouted and I was crying. So that's when my dad sat with me for a bit and told me, sort of consoling me. So that Sarah losing her life, I could have made it. I didn't see it. Sarah, as I was saying, in
Sarah
that
took her own life because she was also going through.
And in that stage, when I spoke to Sarah 2 days prior, Sarah was happy. She didn't make any move, and that's the serious bit of it. The people who are always laughing.
But Sarah didn't know your story.
She knew. Well. She knew. So if anything, I know Sarah talks to me. So that was a wake-up call for me from that point. So what I do every morning is I have positive affirmations I make for me, myself, and I put things on my status just to uplift somebody. So anytime I put something on my status to uplift somebody, then someone reached out back door to tell me.
Karen, there has to be a second conversation.
Right.
From where you left off.
Right.
Because of time, we have to end this one.
Right.
Because I've also loved to open the phone lines and get people to reach out. Because you never know who is watching, who needs something right now.
Right.
So we will have a second leg of this conversation.
Sure.
But I thank you for sharing. I thank you for coming, really.
Thank you for
really
having
grateful.
me. Thank you.
And I thank our doctors also for joining us. There will be a second leg of this conversation. Doctors, thank you so much. Because of time, we have to end the conversation here. We'll bring you show business news. Kadi is up next.